Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. This is the blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man on social media, signing black and shining again, asking you to hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. And this message may actually be one of the most important for many of you. And I'll try to keep it short, but I know I'm not going to be able to do this topic justice. I got to be upfront with y'all. I've done it in some past videos, but some of my newer members, you don't have time to go back and binge listen. Shout out to JMM Selassie. He's been going back and binge listening, but not everybody has the time. And I understand that. So I'm going to re-clarify this. First, I'm going to tell you the reasons that are not mine for doing what I do on this channel. Number one, the reason I don't have for doing what I do on this channel is that I'm just bitter and mad because of what I didn't get in the past. I have a right to be bitter and mad even about that. Yes, even though I'm Muslim, I still have a right to be bitter and mad about it. Mostly because of the deception, more so than the preferences I've been saying. I'm actually more upset at the preferences that hurt other black men's chances than I am at the preferences that hurt my chances. Because as I've said before, I've been pro-black for the longest. So when I was told in 2001 that the reason I was being treated differently, meaning worse, by black women, especially when they were any kind of attractive or educated, anything other than fat country ghetto, because I kid you not, that's what would show me love. Ugly fat country ghetto. Like something was just so wrong with me. And I consider the possibility that something was so wrong with me. Just to be fair. To shut up those of you who want to say, well, I'm doing this because I can't take accountability for what I was or what I wasn't. Before you even get started on that. I consider that. But when I was told what the reason was, and it was beyond my control, and it was the phenotype, I was actually willing to tolerate that because remember, I was pro-black and I was like, well, if it's because I'm not black enough, I'll actually accept that. I'll take that. If the black woman is pro-black enough to use her womb to fight white supremacy in the form of counter population control or population counter control, I'm with it. Hey, look, they don't know I'm black enough, genetically speaking, fine. They just don't know. I don't blame them. Nothing personal. White boys gonna get it harder. And they earned it. They have earned it the way they behave throughout the planet. I was like, okay, fine. Now, this should mean that it is okay for me to step out. But then again, if I do step out, then, see, I thought, okay, if I do step out and I go with some others, then I'm still diluting black blood. So I was in a bit of a quandary, but I didn't actually blame sisters for that. So looking back, I can't retroactively turn around and blame them except for one thing. Apparently, white boys are good enough, just not black men. I could go back and retroactively be bitter. I have the right to. I just don't. So before you say that this is my reason, that's not it. Matter of fact, let me clarify this for those of you that are opponents and are going to look for reasons that are very selfish and have no nobility to them. I wouldn't pick reasons like that. I don't think y'all understand. That would be very stupid. See, as a black man, I knew back in 1989 even, that you cannot tell the black masses anything they don't want to hear without not just backlash, but interruptions, shouting downs, and all kind of false accusations in the forms of speculations and mental health diagnoses from people that are not qualified to practice mental health care. In other words, oh, you got this issue, you got that issue, that type stuff. That's what niggas do. Not just black niggas either. White niggas do it. Latin niggas do it. Arab Bedouin niggas do it. But that's what niggas do. You come with a message that's going to require some kind of mental and physical self-discipline to live out and to apply. And people are going to get upset and come with excuses to just discredit you. Because most people are niggas. Bedouin Arabs, niggas. A lot of uneducated Latin Americans, niggas, same thing. But you know what? When I speak to them in their languages, they at least are impressed enough by my efforts and sincerity to let me finish. And they would at least say, okay, well, you sound like you don't mean any harm. At least there is that. So I can at least get around some of the hostility and the false blame. At the very least. I can give dawah to a Mexican who is Catholic, and he would hear me out. Then he would answer, "We're Catholic." He would raise his objections, and we would take turns talking. I can't do that necessarily with African Americans. For all of Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali, I cannot do that with us. Before the interruptions come, the mental health diagnoses, oh, you just saying that because you look like the Arabs. No, actually, I don't think I do. Some of them do, some of them don't, but I don't think I do. So that wouldn't have been the reason. So you see, first thing I'm going to say is that if you are a detractor, you're already not going to even consider the possibility that I'm not doing what I do for some really dumb, stupid, selfish reason. So let's get that out the way right there. Now let's get to why I do it. Okay, here we go. Number one, I attack the colorism issue. I confront it because I actually have a perspective on it. I've been able to see it from a particular angle. The angle is not being covered very widely. If it was, I'd fuck the shuck up and let everybody else do it. But I've been able to see it from a particular angle. Others have been able to see it from the same angle, but they're not allowed to talk about it the same way. And they're just now beginning to do it. Dark-skinned women are going to get some pushback, but they're allowed to talk about colorism and their experiences. And I do believe that they've had some negative experiences. I mean, hell, dark-skinned women in India have had it. Dark-skinned women in some parts of Africa have had negative experiences with colorism against the high melanin counts, not the low ones. And I don't think they're all making this up. Some are, some are not. But they're allowed to discuss it, and they're going to get the normal amount of pushback. Light-skinned women are allowed to discuss it. A little bit less, but they're allowed to do it. Darker-skinned men are allowed to discuss it. Even though in many cases, when it comes to mate selection, I wouldn't say they're winning, but I'd say that they're ahead of everybody else in that regard. They're still allowed to discuss it, especially when they're talking about the childhood experiences from another place, another same place but another time. You know, before the 90s, they could discuss it, and I don't think they're necessarily making it up either. Light-skinned black men are not allowed to discuss it without a hell of a lot of pushback and gaslighting. Nigga, you lying. Nigga, that's not true. No, nigga, you making this stuff up. You've had it easy all your life. You benefit from the patriarchy and white supremacy. You're the white man of black people. That type of thing. Or, see, that's why we see y'all are a bunch of B-words and wimps and everything else. Look how you are, whining about this stuff. I can do this with impunity. I don't live in the U.S. You don't know my name. You don't know my face. And you will not know unless you're one of those people I know in person to whom I've sent a link to my channel. If not, then, you ain't going to know. And truth be told, I've done a legal name change anyway. So no, I'm not. And let me address this one individual that sent me 2 messages saying that, expect us. And you should at least publish your email so we can get your 20. Number one, I don't know what get your 20 means. Number two, for you to come at me, you'd have to fly over an ocean and a continent. And number three, I'm not your enemy unless you are willingly and knowingly supporting people who know that they're in the wrong and insist on staying in it. I'm not the enemy of the black woman or the Western black woman for that matter, but the wicked witches of the West are enemies to all of us. And anyone will tell you, I'm not an enemy to the Western black women that don't cause these problems. And I give everyone the benefit of the doubt. However, I know that when it comes to mate selection, many of them are wicked witches of the West. And I say that to include even the Western white women who are running their men away. And I don't make any apologies about that. I'm not blaming the innocents for what they don't do. Men or women, black or white, light or dark. And this is going to tie into my really deep-rooted reason that underlies the other reasons I'm going to give you first. So for you that's talking about you want to come and get me, look, bro, I'm not required to give you something with which you can either run up on me in another country or ruin my livelihood. I'm not required to help you do that, especially since I'm not the enemy. I've already reported you, and if you leave me the hell alone, you'll have nothing to worry about. Because Under the law and under my contract, I'm allowed to have an opinion and to voice it so long as I don't do so in a way that's going to reflect on my employers or harm my students' privacy. So if you do ruin my privacy, you're going to ruin the privacy of a lot of my students too. And they got cousins who have connections with the embassy over there. You don't want that, player, and I don't want that for you. So just leave it alone. I'm not the enemy anyway. Bark up a tree of someone that actually just hates black women for being black women and tell me when you find them. Because if somebody hates black women just for being black or for being women, well, I mean, yeah, naturally, if you can prove that's their reason, I'd be on your side. But you're going to be hard-pressed to prove that because that's an unreasonable kind of hatred anyway. So anyway, the reason that I have tackled black gender relationships has been because I have lived through the troubles of that, and I know it. Like I know colorism, I know this one. And I wanted, like I know colorism, and like I wanted to do with colorism, to contribute to the collective black body of knowledge about this subject, because everyone knows something someone else doesn't know. I don't sit up and give my observations just to whine or to vent or just to be mean, but rather to contribute so that people can track certain things. That's why. I have had a marriage broken up due to this. I've had a friend's marriage broken up due to this. I have another friend's marriage on the rocks right now due to this same thing. Black women are trained in the West to not have any confidence or faith in black men, no matter what we do. And this is a subconscious thing. And I actually do feel a bit of pity for a lot of them because of the training they get. But nonetheless, we still have to defend ourselves. Just like they do have to defend themselves, too, against certain oppositions in life. Understandably, we got to defend ourselves as well. I lament that. I don't relish the conflict. I don't like this. I know that the black woman is traumatized. But when you try to point this out so that they can get over the trauma, like you have to do as a man, and they say, shut up, nigga, you don't know what you're talking about, start snapping the fingers and rolling the neck and coming against you, and you trying to help, you don't even mean any harm. They're not even diplomatically disagreeing with you, then of course they become the opposition, not you. But since I know about this and I've seen it firsthand, to the point I've even had to tell my own father about some of these patterns because he didn't see them growing up. I try to contribute to the body of knowledge because this way we could decisively and collectively, or at least it would be in print, along with other people's experiences and viewpoints. Hopefully mine would be better spelled and punctuated, so that if the next generation of black women decided they do want to decisively and collectively confront these issues so that they don't drive away the men that are left, that next generation, they could do it if they chose. That's why I've been doing it. And neither of these is my deepest root reason, and this is where it really gets heavy. My deepest root reason for doing these, either of these, is because we are a community that has been oppressed. You don't want to hear this, but we are a community of victims beyond our choice, involuntarily. Paul Bryan, I know you don't like to hear this, but I got to say it anyway. I don't want us to remain victims forever, neither do you, but I got to address the fact that we are suffering from what we were victims of, the legacy of what we were victims of in the past. It does carry forward. I know that. And simply put, because what we've been through is wrong and I know about it. So I can't sit up here and confront, per se. I can't speak on Palestine's issues a whole lot. I know that they're being oppressed by the Israelis. I get that. But I'm not the expert on that because I'm not a Palestinian nor an Israeli. I don't know anything. Well, I don't know anything compared to them. Let me put it like that. So I can't really dig into it that deeply. There's not much I can do to help them. Besides, they've had the solution, meaning Islam. 85% of them are Muslim, 15% are Christian from what I've heard. They've had the solution and they still won't apply it. What am I going to tell them at this point? And besides, since many of them don't necessarily hate our people, but they don't particularly care for our people, it doesn't really, it would be a waste of time if I tried it. But see, even this ties into the deepest root reason. The deepest root reason I have for doing this is because there's going to come a time when I got to lay in that grave. And it won't be anything except dirt, complete darkness, the angels of punishment or mercy, and my memories of what I've done while I was above the ground. And the time I'm going to spend below the ground is going to be a hell of a lot longer than the time I will spend above it. The one that brought us from death into life in the first place is going to bring us to death. And then he's going to bring us to life again. And we're going to stand in front of him. Some of you may not want to hear it, but that's really what it is. I'm doing this because I'm going to have to stand in front of this Lord. Now stop and think about this for a second. To give some idea of which neither of us can fully comprehend, but to give some idea that we do have. This Lord has a throne so big that just one of the angels that carries this throne has a distance between his earlobe and his shoulder of 700 years of a bird's flight. Now, if you travel from Earth's orbit, to the orbit of Jupiter at the speed of a car, about 55 miles an hour, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, that would have taken about, if I'm not mistaken, that would take more than 55 years. I forgot how many years that would take, but something like, that would take something like 70 years. A bird can fly between a third to a half as fast as a car moves, normally on a highway. So that means that the bird could get from Earth's orbit to Jupiter's orbit in under 700 years and pass it. That's what that means. So you're talking about just one that carries this throne has a distance between the earlobe and the shoulder of that length. That's a long distance. So what about the throne? What about the Lord above that throne? And we got to stand in front of this Lord. The one that can roll and will roll the heavens up like a scroll. The stars, the galaxies that the stars make up, going to roll it up like a scroll. Swell the sun up and bring it to about a mile over our heads. Wake us up out the graves. Have us standing in serious heat just before the judgment begins. Separate us into camps. Hand everybody their deeds, or have the deeds, records of their deeds handed to everybody. Have him open them up and read them out and judge them one by one on a day that's going to take 50,000 years of our time. And have people standing and unable to move until their name is called. I want you to stop and consider that. The one that's going to be able to, it's real deep. The one that's going to tell one of the angels to blow a trumpet and everything dies except for 4. Then is going to tell the angel of death to take the souls of the other 3. Then he's going to tell that angel of death to die. And then he's going to ask all of the creation, where are the tyrants and the kings? That's what he's going to ask. And ain't nobody going to be alive to answer. Then he's going to resurrect for the purposes of judgment. And I got to stand, and you got to stand, and the ones you love and the ones you hate got to stand in front of the same Lord. And the details that we know about the time in the grave and the day of resurrection, these details are scary as hell, player. And I don't want to be on the wrong side of that. So I'm not confronting this because, I'm not confronting this because of racial biases or because I hate the white man or something like that. And if I did hate him, so what? I hate all oppressors, including when they're black. It doesn't matter. I hate oppressors, period. So when I'm confronting these issues, it is because I know something about these issues. I've dealt with them before, so I can tell a misconception from a fact, for the most part, and because I was given a voice to do it and the opportunity. And so what I want is on that serious day when people will just want a drink of water before their name is called and before they stand in front of judgment. And on that day when everybody wakes up naked, barefoot, and uncircumcised, just like they were born, scared as all get out. On that day that this happens, I want to have something to be able to tell my Lord, well, Lord, I tried to do this and I asked them to hit the share button, and I'm just asking for one sin to be shaved off. You know what? However many sins you're willing to shave off for everyone that heard this message. Because like you, I got a mountain of sins and I need them shaved off bit by bit. So that's why I try to give you a good word and I ask you to hit the share button so somebody else can hear it too. That's why I do it. I do it because it is the right thing to say, and I am trying my best to live it in my real life too. This is social media. This is a means to augment real life. This is not real life itself. But in real life, I try to live out exactly what I'm telling you. I really do. And I understand that the genders have an influence on each other. So the genders can push each other towards paradise or towards hell. And I am witnessing in the West, one gender consistently push the other one towards hell, and they don't care. And I try to offset that as much as I can. Now, before I had these social media accounts, I would say, look, man, we got to do better. We can't sit up here be making these women unhappy like we're doing. I didn't know about the CDC report that dispelled the misconception that black men were the worst fathers. Didn't know about that. I go hard on men and women. I was going hard on men for things that men weren't even doing, like talking about, because I didn't know they weren't doing it. Come to find out, you know what? Actually, my gender's not doing everything that's been said. My gender and race demographic are not doing everything that has been said. We men are not the boogeyman. We're not unsafe and dangerous to children by default. That's not what it is. What it is we're normal, we have human limits, and many women are upset because we're not Superman. But they don't want to have to be Wonder Woman to qualify for Superman. And don't think that they should have to be. That's what we're dealing with. And then I found out objectively, when you are elsewhere, outside the West, it is different. I was married to a North African and was spoiled. And I realized, you know what? I would have never done this in the United States. I would not have married a poor and uneducated single mother widow in the United States. But the reason is because I would not have been given a chance to marry anyone else in the U.S. The one time I married in the States, she wasn't poor. She wasn't a single mother. She wasn't a widow. She was a divorcee. But she also thought that I was going to be able to provide a lifestyle that many men of my generation were losing because the economy was taking a downturn. That's the truth of the matter. And I found this out partially from her accidentally, and I also found out some of this because somebody heard her talking to a mother, and they were trying to figure out where I was hiding the money at. Like, really? I wasn't making that much. There was nothing to hide. So I know what I'm talking about. I'm not always right, because no human is, but I'm not making stuff up. But I'm doing this because if it's going to continue, if colorism is going to continue to rip our community apart after we've already been oppressed enough and stopped from healing, and if the gender relations are going to rip our people apart after we've already been oppressed enough and stopped from healing, it's going to do it in spite of me, not just even though I was there. It's not going to happen independently of me per se. It's going to happen even though I was trying to get us to wake the uck up and get around these things and see the game that was played and see that we've been tricked and deceived and had, hoodwinked, bamboozled, run amok, and led astray. Shout out to Malcolm X. May Allah have mercy on him and give him the highest levels of paradise. And I mean that from the bottom of my black heart and the depths of my black mind. I'm doing this for the same reason that Malcolm traveled. Went from place to place, meeting speaking engagements, trying to wake up a people who were filled with self-hatred after going through the oppression that they were going through. And I'm talking about after his Hajj, same reason. Now we have a means that makes it easier, so I'm trying to take advantage of that because I have less of an excuse to not do it, knowing what I know. That's why I'm doing this. I'm not even doing this because I think that it's going to work. I hope it does. I don't pretend to know the future, but I don't expect it to. I do this because it's the right thing to do. It is the right thing to say. And because at some point, I'm going to have to stand in front of my maker, and I'm going to need some kind of good deeds, just like everybody else is going to need, to offset the bad deeds. That's why I'm doing this. In short, I'm doing this because I don't want to get cooked on the last day, regular or extra crispy. I'm doing this because I'm going to need some mercy, and I'm trying to build a case to plead to appeal for some mercy on that day. Because even the good deeds ain't going to be enough. Ain't nobody's good deeds are really going to count enough for them unless you add his mercy to it. But you got to make a case to plead, and I want to have that case. So when I stand in front of him and I'm up here begging for mercy, and he says, well, what have you brought forth to show the sincerity of your pleas for mercy today? Because you're only pleading for mercy now that you're standing in front of me. I want to be able to say, Lord, I was pleading for mercy with my head to the floor before. With my head to the ground before I was buried in the ground. I had my head to the ground begging for mercy. And I worked this, and I know you don't need me to do it. I just did it because it was the best I could do. So at the very least, I can offer this and say that my application for mercy is a sincere application. It's not a joke. I know I need it, and I knew I needed it back then. That's it. Ain't no guarantees. I understand that. I ain't guaranteed. I'm not guaranteed to burn or to be allowed to live forever. I'm just saying, y'all, that that's my reason. I'm doing this for that reason. I'm not doing this because I hate the super select F boys. I'm not doing this because I hate the PUAs. I disagree with y'all, but I ain't doing it because I hate y'all. Even if I have a right to hate y'all. I'm not doing this because I hate the women that saw me and passed me up, or saw my friends and passed them up. I'm doing it because they need to know, so that they can, if they're going to have daughters, they can tell their daughters, don't make this mistake. You don't want to do this. You're going to have to understand that ain't no man gonna have everything, and you're going to have to be able to pick a good guy and stay with him as long as he stays with you. You ain't gonna find Superman. You ain't gonna find perfection. Girl, it's not happening. That's why. That's the reason. But underneath all of that is what I've been saying. The reason underneath all the other ones is as deep as the grave that I'm going to lay in for however long. From the time I breathe my last and close my eyes until the time that the Lord tells Israfil, resurrects Israfil, mind you, brings him back, and then has him to blow on the trumpet a second time and wake all us up. And have us reassembled and come out them graves coughing, naked, barefoot, uncircumcised, and very afraid. Because on that day, everybody's going to be worried about his or herself. Fathers are not going to be worried about the daughters that they loved so much in this life. Husbands and wives are not going to be worried about each other, no matter how much they loved each other in this life. That's not going to be the case. Everyone's going to wake up saying myself, because everybody's going to be worried about themselves. They're not even going to have clothing on, they're not even going to have clothing on with which to cover their nakedness in front of each other. And Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, had a wife, Aisha, for those of you that don't know, and she asked, well, if people wake up naked and uncircumcised, aren't the men and women going to be looking at each other? And he said, on that day, the matter is going to be too great for that. Stop and think about that. While we're talking about how to sexually relate to each other in a fair and just manner in this life right now, I'm telling you about this, which is why you hear me say, I'm not going to promote fornication. I promote marriage, but only in a way that's not going to oppress either one. That's why you hear me say this. That's why you hear me say to these women, look, if you're going to be chaste, be all the way chaste. Don't throw your chastity out the window just because other women want to do him, or because he got money, or because he's 6'3". Be consistent. Men will respect that. I'll even tell men, look, you really ain't got to be walking around here giving up your wiener like that. You just need to make sure that they're not sitting up here playing chaste with you and being sluts with someone else. That's why I'm careful about what it is that I tell you. At the end of the day, at the end of the last day, I just want to be in the right place. And I want to be able to look at this. If these are going to be issues that drive a lot of us into hell, drive a lot of our people into the fire, I want to be able to look and say, well, it didn't happen with any help from me. It happened in spite of my efforts against it. That's what I'm looking for. This is not about getting approval from you. I mean, I'd like for this to help you. I mean that from the bottom of my black heart. And that's why I tell you, if this does help, pick an alias, a screen name, come back and let me know that it helped. So really to let other people know that what I'm saying has helped you out. That's really what I'm asking. You ain't got to give me a real name. You ain't got to know mine. But I've already said it. I've already said what the solution is for the black community in any country, what it's going to be. And if you see a black ethnicity or tribe that is taken on Islam and their lives are disasters, it's either because someone persecuted them or because they did not apply this solution the correct way. In other words, they weren't really living and practicing it. That's what you're going to see. I know you're not going to believe me. I get it. But I'm not saying this necessarily so that you'll believe me. I'm saying it so that God will witness it. That's why. And so that God will shave off as many sins as it's worth. So that when I stand before him, I got a heavier balance of good deeds and bad, if he allows. Because in reality, your approval is not really what matters. The approval to me that matters is from the one, and this is really what matters to you in your heart of hearts. When you think about it, the real approval that matters to you in your heart of hearts can only come from the one who can bring you to life from a lifeless fetus in the womb, bring you to death, and then bring you back to life afterwards. And tell you either you're going to live forever in a way that's befitting, or you're going to live forever but in a way that's neither living nor dying. In other words, you're being tortured. That's the one who can offer the best rewards that are literally out of this world, or the one who can offer the worst torments that are also literally out of this world. That is the only one from whom approval really matters. Other approvals do help. I love it when my mom is content. Even if she didn't know I had something to do with it, that's fine. I love it when my daughters are content, when my son is content, when my dad is content. And if they don't know that I had anything to do with it, that's even better. Because then the secret's between me and God, and it counts even more as even more good deeds. Because his approval is the one that matters the most. That's what it is. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that's why I told you what the solution was. It is not so that we can all have a foreign costume party and pretend to all be Arabs. That's not what I'm talking about when I tell you that Islam is the solution. You never saw Malcolm do it. No one ever told him to. I said it because I've lived it, and I can see how this can be a solution when people actually live it. And I've seen how many Arab nations are suffering because they don't live it. And I've seen how even the Gulf Arab nations are also suffering just under the surface because they don't live it. That's why I'm doing this. That's the reason right there. That's the deepest rooted reason, literally as deep as the grave, in which we're all going to lay a hell of a lot longer than we're going to be on top of the ground. I'm doing it really for the same reasons that if you think about it, you would do or not do anything you do or don't do. Doing it because I want to live forever, and if I can't live in bliss forever, at least I don't want to burn. I'm doing it because in my heart of hearts, I actually want my Lord and Maker and Creator to say to me, you did well, and your sins are forgiven, and I'm pleased with you. and I will allow you to take a look at my face. I want that more than I want any mansion in paradise or any virgin of paradise. I want that more. For my Lord to say, I forgive you for your wrongs, and I'm pleased with the good that you've done and what you tried to do. You have my stamp of approval, my servant. That's what I'm looking for. Only thing that could be better than that is if I could win that for me and for some other folks. And when I say this, I don't expect you to believe me and take my word for it. But that's one of the reasons I don't show my face, and I'm not going to put my name on here. I'm not that way. When I tell you these things, I'm not bragging about myself, because you don't know who I'm talking about. You don't know who I am. You know what I'm telling you, and you can determine completely unselfishly if this was meant from the right place or not. This is why it is I don't want to take money. I might do it in the future. I doubt it, though. Only way I would accept it is if I actually didn't need it. And then I'd have to find another way to give it back somehow. But no, I don't want to take money at this point. Because then you have to worry about whether I'm telling you something in order to keep getting your money, like a pastor does, or whether I'm telling you this because this is actually what I've been able to observe. Right now, you can understand, I get no money from you and I lose no money to you. My reputation in my real life is not going to be enhanced or ruined by this. So what reason could I possibly have for telling you what I'm telling you right now? It's because it'll work for you too. And I'd love to see my people win if possible. But if not, I'm still going to try to win in the eyes of my Lord, whether or not you do. I think I've said enough. Thank you for being patient while I gave this long sermon. I really do hope and pray one day that this helps you. And I hope that one day this won't even be necessary. But in the meantime, hit the share button, because somebody could benefit from it. And like I said, I just need to shave off my bad deeds, because I got a mountain of them like other people do. And I've already said what the solution is for you. That being said, black heart, black mind, black out. In the next recording, I'll probably explain why I picked the name Black Heart in the beginning. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And in reality, power to all who wish to be righteous. Black males, black females. That's really where I wanted to go, in my heart of hearts. But I close out like I usually do. Black, heterosexual, male power, specifically because the oppressors don't like it, and specifically because even the sisters that want to be on the right path and don't mean any harm could benefit from that. And I hope all the righteous do. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.